So we're always very thankful when people can turn up. So good morning. Thank you for attending this webinar, which is around sort of freedom of access and the idea of the intranet in your pocket. So today we're going to be sort of running through a couple of themes. Johnny's going to be looking at how we think about the decisions we make and the devices we make them on. And then I'm going to be running through a little bit about what good looks like when we look at, say, a mobile intranet or a mobile app for an intranet. So all of those elements of it, and then we'll bring it all together right at the end for some Q&A. So I think I'm going to share, Johnny, you were going to share your slides first, were you? Because you
I can do, yeah. Let me share the slides.
And then we will start with some introductions, and then we will we'll launch straight into it.
Good. If I just get that up on my second screen, which is actually up here on the left, but you know.
So, and Adrian, if you just want to spotlight us, and then we can that'll help as well. So thank you. Right, there we go.
Right, should be coming through any moment. How's that? Can you see that, Haytham?
Yes, I can indeed. So we'll just do some intros. So if we go to the first slide, Johnny.
Right. So I'm dealing with multiple screens here. I'll go over here. Cool.
There we go.
I suppose I can go first as I'm on there and introduce yourself, Haytham. It's good to meet.
There we go.
Yeah. Is that being slow, or can you see our faces now?
Yes, it's fine.
Perfect. So good to meet everyone. For those of you who I know already, good to see you again. I'm Johnny. I'm a senior account manager at Verse One, and I report into Haytham.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Haytham. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Verse One as well. So great to meet everyone.
I think, Haytham, you go through this and then we'll talk about digital front doors next. And I think then I will go through some slides, as you said, just to set some context around how we perceive tasks digitally these days and how things have shifted. And then we're going to pass back just to look at how, those digital front doors come together.
Brilliant. Well, so look, hopefully everyone knows who Verse One is, but for those that don't, we're a company that's been around. This is our 22nd year, actually. We were founded in 2004 to sort of harness technology and make a positive impact in our two chosen sectors, which are social housing and the NHS, so really helping people with their homes and their health. We are sort of market leaders in what we do. We deal with this is slightly out of date, but we deal with over 70 NHS trusts and over 51 social housing providers now. And through all of that, we use our Verse One DXP, our digital experience platform. We'll come to that a little bit later in the webinar. There's been a sort of, can we go to the next slide, please? So what we wanted to talk about today was really about digital front doors. And when we start to think about how people access information and why it's important if we can start to look at that and how we can start to integrate those. So I think we're going to get a little bit more into sort of the specifics around an intranet and how that works with mobile. But first of all, I think, one of the biggest things I think we need to think about is why people access information, what you want them to do about it when they get there. So I think if you always have the principle in mind that you want people to understand the information they find the information first time, understand that information, but most importantly, act upon it. And then you've got all of these different access points, because actually, if they can't find the right information, if they can't access the information through your digital front door, they will turn up your actual front door. Whether that's in social housing and they're calling your call center, whether that's turning up at your A&E because they couldn't find information via your website, or whether a member of staff can't find the right information and they have to walk to somebody else's office to ask them, is this the right policy? Is this the right guidance? So what we want to do is create a single smooth experience that gets everyone to the right place first time, every time. We don't want them to abandon that journey, because as soon as they abandon that journey or they find any blockers or they can't find what they need, they're going to then have to sort of interact with you in a physical way, whether it's a telephone call, whether, as I said, whether it's actually turning up at that actual front door. And if we can do all of those things, then we can create massive gains in productivity and efficiency. So if you have 10,000 staff, for instance, in an NHS hospital, I think it's something like you will gain something like 43,000 man hours. Sorry, it's 5,000 staff, 43,000 man hours or people hours per year if you just save 2 minutes per day, if people can find the right information first time, understand it and act upon it. So there are massive efficiency gains to be had through all of this. So Also allows us to provide greater data accuracy. And if all of your doors connect, you get that true economies of scale and it reduces cost. And actually, it also allows you to have lots of different channels for contacting people and bi-directional communication. So it's really important how we think about the digital front doors. So if we're going to have these digital front doors, we want to make them accessible to people. We know that the way people have sort of access information has changed. I'm old enough to remember that you'd have to seek out an internet cafe if you wanted to get online. But that's not the case anymore. We know that everyone can access this through their phones in their pocket. So Johnny is now going to sort of pick this conversation up, talk about a little bit about how we make decisions, or what sort of decisions we make on what sort of devices.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so just to set a little bit of context, we mentioned the DXP, so VerseOne's digital experience platform. These are just some stats for you. What came through the platform last year? A tremendous amount of volume. So top left there, 10.2 billion hits to websites, intranets, portals, mobile apps. It's given us real good insight, real good data around what people do, why they do it, how they do it, what they engage with, what they don't engage with, where they abandon their journey. We've got that sort of insight, and it's fascinating to see over the course of a decade how that's shifted. And some of those shifts, which I'm going to come on to, are really obvious. They're things that we talk about all the time, right? The technology enhancements, the iPhone now versus before, all that sort of stuff is obvious, versus the things that are slightly less obvious and what often gets overlooked, which is paramount to the conversation we're having today. So just to set some context around the data that has got us through to thinking like this. So as I was saying, how obvious is the change? So with that in mind, it's potentially slightly a crude analogy, but because technology moves at such lightning speed, something that we are becoming more and more aware of is that the phone in your pocket, 10 years ago on the left-hand side there versus what's available today, which we probably all have in our pocket right now, there is this saying, probably not the first time you've heard this, but the iPhone 17 is nearly 4,000 times more powerful than the computer on Apollo 11 that landed on the moon. So, in the course of 10 years, technology has absolutely rocket shipped into the stratosphere. And it feels obvious because it's abstract. We can notice it happening around us. It's different things that are happening. We can see that. But as I said before, it's often the things that we don't talk about. It's how quickly us as human beings, the people that are interacting with these things, get used to those new norms. So, let's look at maybe on the next slide some technology we were using over a decade ago. So it's critical to this discussion today is about this expectation shift of how people access information and what their expectations are. So who remembers dial-up internet? I do. Actually, the weird noise as it dialed up and rings through and you connect, and back in the day, MSN Messenger, for those of you that can remember that. LimeWire, how we used to get our music back in the day as well, having dialed onto that internet. We get onto LimeWire, look at that interface, really, really interesting. Speaking of interfaces, who remembers teletext? I remember my dad booking a holiday through teletext. Now, obviously, it's booking.com and Skyscanner and all that sort of stuff. But it really sort of puts it into perspective what our expectation shift would be. So just to put some context around that, it was 2 for Tuesdays yesterday. I may well have ordered a pizza, but we know Domino's delivery, right? Again, this is the crude analogy, but it's relevant because it feeds into that instant gratification, that expectation that I can get a pizza in 10 minutes. I was listening to Spotify on the way in. If you think about that interface there on the top right versus LimeWire from back in the day, or iTunes, which existed back in the day. Again, speaking of iTunes, looking at Amazon here. So my front door often looks like this from coming home and all those things that are being ordered less than 24 hours ago piling up there, and my other half as well, some part to play in that. But we tend to be bad at spotting how our own behaviors and expectations, because that technology has shifted so monumentally over the last few years, it's sort of wrapped up in instant gratification, but it's actually, for us anyway, it's more about that absolute total ease of access, wherever, whenever, however. It's instant gratification, but it's the ease of access. Now, it's no longer the exception. It's actually the norms that our patients, that us use, our residents, our communities are used to. This is the expectation now. Actually, why is that relevant? What's the so what in the bottom right hand corner here? So this is my last slide. I just want to talk about this for just a moment before I hand back to Haytham. But actually, how can we use this shift that I'm talking about to improve life? I said it's a crude analogy because we're in the world of patient outcomes and bringing the community together. And actually, you don't have to look far to see the sort of negativity around the rise of social media and some of the things that are going on at the minute. But actually, how can we use that same impetus, that human behavior, to improve life? As Verse One's founding principle, you saw it on the first slide. To harness innovative technology to improve life. So it's about when we set out to complete a task, we bucket those two things. We bucket those tasks into two things. So on the left-hand side there, we have low cognitive load, and on the right-hand side, we have high cognitive load. And these things are obvious, right? We call them mobile phone job or laptop jobs. They're absolutely critical to completing a journey. So and being engaged with that platform. So for example, if you try and complete, say, a high cognitive load task on a small screen, it can feel quite stressful. We call these things in my house, a laptop job. We might be booking a holiday, prioritizing tasks in management or analyzing, learning something. In the social housing world, for example, I work a lot in the social housing world. It could be something difficult like logging a complaint or antisocial behavior or raising a concern with a landlord. We know that 89% of all website traffic that came through the platform last year was on a mobile phone. So if they're accessing it on a mobile phone, raising a high cognitive load task, they might not have a laptop at all, but they're doing it on a mobile phone. Now, that can feel quite stressful to be able to go through the form that they're submitting, and actually they more often than not tend to not complete the action, and they don't access the information they need. So the screen size we use here, which is the crux of this slide we're seeing in front of us, is matching the task we're trying to complete with the device that we're using and making it as easy as possible. And actually the swing here, or that seesaw in the middle, we know that there's a success improvement rate over 300%. So if you get the right task, low or high cognitive load on the right device, so you make it easy for those that want to complete a high cognitive load task on a mobile device, you have a 300% more chance of people completing that action. One thing just before I hand back to Haytham, actually, as I was writing this slide and having a little think about the statistics and the data in the back end, I did recently book a holiday on my mobile phone, and I think that might be, I'm a data pool of one person, so I just wanted to sort of raise this, that it may well indicate that next shift that's coming is that it is so easy now to use these devices that what we perceive as high cognitive load tasks actually are becoming so much easier as technology transforms. So it might well be that actually this shift to mobile is becoming much more prevalent. My other half will say that's a laptop job. We need to book the holiday on a laptop. I don't know why, I just have to. Whereas, actually you can start to do these things on a mobile phone now. Like I say, I'm just one person, but it was something that I thought about. Actually, was seeing tech move so fast that maybe we, right in front of our eyes, we're seeing another shift in how humans engage with it. So I'll pass back now quite nicely the link here into high engagement, perceiving tasks, getting people to complete their journeys, comes around to a principle that Verse One have talked about since our founding around high engagement and ROI.
Perfect, thank you, Johnny. So yeah, what a lovely segue. So that's really helpful. So I think again, it's really important to think about that when we're looking at, okay, what do we want people to do, or what do we want to be able to give people the ability to do, and on what screen size might they need to do that on. So that's really important, especially when you're looking, say, at documents or policies or guidelines, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But I think if you go back to that principle of what are we trying to aim for here, which is high engagement. So one of the sort of founding principles of Verse One is high engagement is return on investment. So it doesn't matter how good a system you build or how good a solution you build or what device it's on. If nobody uses it, then it's not going to be worth the money that you've paid for it, regardless of how much money you've invested in it. So high engagement for us means three things, which is people find the right information first time, people understand that information, but most importantly, they're able to act upon that information. And the only way that you can get those three things sort of in alignment is if you have an intelligent information architecture. So information architecture, if you will, is the science of how people click through a solution or how they use a solution to get what they want. And the only way you can do that is by understanding all the different user personas that might be using, say, an intranet. So whether that's on the housing side, whether that's corporate, people out working in the community, whether it's on the NHS side, clinicians, cleaners, staff, operations. All of those different people will need slightly different journeys. You'll need to understand that so you can present this information in the right way so they understand it, can find it, understand it, and act upon it. You do want to make sure that you wrap all of that in sort of enterprise pricing as well. Whenever you're looking at a solution, I always sort of would add that so that you're not punished for the number of users that use it. You want to encourage the most amount of people to use it. The price should come down for the more people that log on. And then if you do all of those things, then you can integrate, automate, and personalize. So for us, high engagement is measurable return on investment. So if we just have the next slide. But when we look at sort of things like so we were talking about, freedom of access, we're talking about sort of an intranet in your pocket. One of the questions we always get asked is, well, why would someone download a work app? Why have it on their phone? I don't want to be reminded that when I'm not at work, do I want people contacting, or do I want to be able to access these things? And well, the simple reason is you want to be able to drive them to it because you're going to give them a service that aids them, that will be at their fingertips. So we need to be able to integrate to all the bits of information that they want, all the different systems. We need to be able to bring information forward, most importantly, write information back. So you put all of that power right at their fingertips, so they're not having to struggle to find a computer or go and ask someone. So it becomes a convenience. It's that ease of access. We want to automate for them. We want to take really manual, frustrating, time-hungry processes and automate them for them and hand that time back to them. So maybe they can take a break. Maybe they can see another patient. Maybe they can do a bit more work if they're in social housing, see another tenant. But all of that we can integrate, automate, but we really want to personalize it, have that sense of community, something that brings them in, that makes them want to sort of click into it and engage with the app. So if we go to the next slide, please. I just wanted, so if we're considering then, okay, why are people going to want to sort of use an app and what's going to draw them through to it and what's going to make them download it and register? Okay, so what does good look like? Well, the first thing, it's got to be screen size agnostic. So, you want the display optimized no matter what device they're on. You want to give them freedom of access, and this is the real power of apps because they can access this whenever, so if they're on their way home and they want to log in to look at something, a holiday policy, a maternity policy, it's there while they're waiting at the bus stop. You want it to have full digital inclusion. So that's not just your normal members of staff that can probably access your internet anyway, and it might be near a computer, but all those that can't, those out in the field. Maybe you've got charity workers, maybe you've got volunteers. You want to make sure that you're inclusive of everyone. And then when they get onto that solution, it's got to be paired with a really good document lifecycle management, and so that they know that every document they access is the right document. There's one single source of truth, so that when they find that information, they can trust it and then they can act upon it. So all of those things are great, but how do we drive people to higher engagement and registrations? Well, actually, what we want is some kind of program, there's some sort of community that builds sort of a sense of joy when you go into it. So our rewards and recognition program will do that. And again, we're going to go through all of these in a bit more detail. And through all of this, you want to be able to pull out the data, because if we're going to have all of these different channels that we're going in, that people are accessing information, we need to understand where the blockers are, because actually we want to make sure that we're increasing productivity, we're increasing efficiency and reducing cost through their ability to access information that allows them to do their job on a daily basis. And through all of that, we want accessibility weaved in, so at its base and its DNA. So if we just go to the next slide, please, Johnny. So we've talked about mobile sort of responsive design, and what we mean is, so whatever device you're on, you want it to be screen size agnostic. So you can look at the website, you can look at the intranet, you can look at it on a mobile phone, or you can look at it on a mobile app, and it's constantly just adapting. So it's a seamless experience for the user. That is built in as sort of a base in everything we do here. But when you're working with any supplier, you want to make sure that that's what it's going to be doing, because you need to think about how your different personas are accessing that information when they're accessing it, for instance. So one of the features that we have, for instance, on our internet is a night and day mode, because we know that sometimes in the NHS people are on wards, and if they want to look at the internet, they want to find some information quickly, and they're going to pull out their phone, they don't want to wake everyone up with a bright light. So again, it's got to be thinking about those different personas, those different geographies, and catering for them. We go to the next slide. But the real power of the mobile app is actually, because once we've got them to it, once they're registered it and they can see the value in it, it gives us a way of doing bi-directional communication. You can do targeted push notifications to their phone. So instead of emailing them something that's important, for instance, the building they're working in, the car park is shut that day, so they might need to take public transport. You don't want to send that to a whole hospital, or you don't want to send that to a whole housing provider, because that's a lot of noise. And if there's too much noise, people will stop engaging. But you can, with a mobile app, send really targeted push notifications to individual users, to user groups to tell them something important, and it will flash up on their phone. In the same way that I've got the Lotto app downloaded, and it will tell me if I've won or not won each week if I'm playing the lottery. But that's important. That's what draws me into that app. We can also do amazing things like do biometric logins. Again, that's helpful for some people who struggle with passwords, those types of things. And again, it allows them to get straight into the system. And all of this is pushing towards increased engagement and productivity. Next slide, please. So it's great. So now we've got a mobile app on someone's phone. That's great. We can talk to them. We can do push notifications. They can find the information they want. If we don't pair this with a system that allows good document lifecycle management, if the information they're finding isn't very good or they don't trust it, then you've fallen at the first hurdle. So you've got to pair mobile technology, mobile apps, intranets in your pockets. All of those things have to be underpinned with really good lifecycle management. So here you can see on here, this is our document lifecycle management, which is part of our intranet. It's a module on there that allows you to traffic light documents. So, you know, it goes through whether they're currently validated or whether they're bit under review or actually they've expired. And we can sort of set it to auto archive anything that's expired so people can't access it. And we can also set different user groups. They can only access certain levels of document or certain specific documents. Say, for instance, HR, they want to be able to access HR documents, but not everybody should be able to access those documents. So it needs to be underpinned with really good document lifecycle management. Next slide, please. And if you can have all these documents and you can put all these on your phone, again, as Johnny, and this is where the low cognitive, high cognitive sort of theory really comes into play. If you're looking at a really important document, say prescription guidelines or a HR policy or something like that, you need to be able to trust that information. But most of all, importantly, if you're on a phone, you don't need to want to be able to have to scan through what might be a 30, 40-page document. You need to be able to ask a question and it to bring up clause level specific answers with calls to action. So you want to pair good document lifecycle management with really good AI search capability. That is cost effective. Again, I know there's lots of AI searches out there, but it needs to be built within the system so that actually it comes as standard. So it just allows you to instantly go into a document, know that document's validated, then ask a question in that document that will take you to the clause level. So now we've gone way beyond just the use of what we would have had if we just put documents on a mobile phone, because that's not a great way to read them. If we go to the next slide. And then that's all the sort of the great stuff around the day-to-day sort of grind of people's jobs, you know, finding documents, finding policies, doing all the functionality. Actually, we also want to bring some fun. We want to bring some rewards and we want to bring some recognition. So this is we've sort of built in rewards and recognition programs. And again, these can go straight to your phone. So actually, these are peer-to-peer recognition programs that allow you to tell somebody else when you've seen them do, you know, displaying excellence, or, you know, I saw you with that patient or I saw you with that tenant, and the way that you handled that situation was amazing. You really are living up to our virtues and our values, and you can give them either a heart or a star, or some of them have pats on the back, and that's absolutely fantastic. And this has been sort of an award-winning reward and recognition program. We originally developed it with Bart's Hospital in London, and they had such a massive success. I think they launched on Valentine's Day. It was to fit in with the theme of hearts. And in 6 months, they had 100,000 peer-to-peer recognitions given. But the biggest impact they had, the sort of looking before and after, that 55% of their staff felt more valued and recognised at work. Now, that they didn't sort of combine that with a mobile app at the time, but imagine the power if we put this into a mobile app now, because actually we want people to interact with the internet. We want people to see the information, the news, and all the other bits of targeted, personalised topic sort of news feeds that we're building into that for them. But how are we going to get them to engage? Well, actually, they might get a heart through, and the heart will pop up on their phone, and they have to click into the heart, go into the internet app. Now they're in the internet, you can talk to them about other things to see who gave them that heart. So it's combining the power of all these things and bringing in something that really draws people in. And if you launch your mobile app with your rewards and recognition program, that will drive really high levels of engagement and registrations from day one. If we go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
And then I think finally, you know, once we're having people access all these different channels, we want to be able to analyze it. So again, so you want to have a module that can bring out all of the different data reports, all of the different data flows, and look at when people are registering, look at when people are abandoning journeys, look at when people couldn't find the right document, because we want to know. We did some time and motion study with an NHS trust and followed some people around, worked out sometimes it was taking them 20 minutes to find a document. And that's if they could actually find the document. If they couldn't, then they weren't then phoning people or walking down the corridor to get someone to validate something. So actually, we want to see these blockers, because then we can refine and help you evolve the service, the solution as it's being powered through that app. Last slide.
But just to add to that as well, a very recent study has come out. I think Gartner, or a very trusted surveyor, have released some stats recently that approximately 35% of all internal emails sent from colleague to colleague, 35% of those emails, and there are tens of thousands a day sent within an NHS trust. 35% are requesting information that already exists in their inbox. So, even if you were to half that, and an average email taking, 5 or 6 minutes to write, reply to, you can really see how that starts stacking up immediately if that information is at the fingertips. They don't need to send that email. And actually, they shouldn't send that email a lot of the time because it may well have some personal stuff in it, personal data in it, documents that shouldn't go amiss. So again, got the GDPR and the compliance thing to wrap into that too. Next slide.
So yeah, and then the final thing, as I said, is accessibility is really important. So again, when you're thinking about screen size, when you're thinking about all of those other things, think about the different personas that are using it. Think of the different people. Think of the different accessibility needs. So we talk about accessibility. What we're actually talking about is digital inclusion. So it's really important that that's sort of weaved in from day one. We've got lots of lovely case studies. So Martin Rollies, who's the senior communication at London Northwest, we helped them go from I think 86th in the country in the Silk Tide ratings to first in London and fourth nationally. But again, when you're looking at all of these things, you want to sort of see it as that combined package, which is I want a mobile app, but I need to drive people towards it. So I need really good programs like rewards and recognitions, which will be the fun part, the community part that will draw people in and drive high engagement from day one. I want the app to be serviceable, so it needs to be screen size agnostic. It needs to operate no matter what device people are using it on. And we want to have sort of really good targeted communications with people. So we want those push notifications to go direct into people's phones. So we're targeting almost on a one-to-one basis now, and we're cutting out the rest of the noise. So I've got the app, I've got the rewards and recognition, I've got the communication, but actually when they're in there, I want to make sure that the documents they find are validated, they can be trusted, so that I'm creating lots of productivity, lots of efficiency, because I'm reducing all of that frustration and time-hungry manual processes that people go through to check that the information's up to date and the right information. And then the final part of that is, okay, if I've got all that information, I'm not going to scan through a large document on a phone. I need to be able to have that AI search to bring it all together to clause level specificity. And then actually I want to be able to report. I want the insights around that. So I'm constantly evolving, constantly getting it better. So I think if you combine all of those things in sort of the proper package, that is how you truly unlock the power of putting the internet in people's pockets and the information at people's fingertips. So only just a click away for everything they need. Go on to the next slide. So I've sort of done we've done a whistle stop tour very quickly of what we think sort of good looks like when you're considering sort of mobile apps or sort of mobile on the go or 24/7 freedom of access for your intranet. I wanted to just very quickly tell you a little bit about VerseOne's platform, which helps enable this. So anyone that's hopefully worked with us knows that for us, everything starts and ends with the user. And actually, what you need, if you're going to have all of those elements that we just discussed, is what you want is a unified platform that's capable of powering all of those without really costly integration work or coding work, and actually it can just be stacked together very quickly. And so we have a modular platform here. If you go to the next one, it's really quick and easy to deploy. But the great thing is if you've already got it, we can switch all of these things on for you very easily. Just because my mind is quite visual, when I look at our platform like this, I know it looks quite complicated, but this, to me resembles a cake, and it's a layered cake. And as we go through the layers, you see what they push out towards. So if you start at the bottom, if you look at that sponge cake like yellow layer at the bottom, that is a really powerful integration engine, and that can connect to all your different systems. Again, you want your internet to be that one single source of truth, but there are other legacy systems that you want to bring data forward, put data back. So it's about having these connectors that connect everything together and push into one integration engine. On top of that, we can weave things in like business process automation, as we said, AI, AI search capability, automated complaints capabilities, all of those can sit into there. And they're all pushing into this, if you will, the jam layer at the top there of a really powerful CMS, a content management solution. All of those are pushing into their content management solution. And from that, you can run all your websites, your intranets, your portals, and your apps. If we go to the next slide. And because the system is modular, it's about picking what you need right now. So, we might say that actually, right now I want an intelligent intranet. I want some staff recognition. I want a GP secure zone, for instance, and I want AI searching. AI and SEO, sorry. But down the line, I might want that AI-powered search assistant. Might want to bring the mobile app in. So the way I always think of these is almost like Lego bricks, is you can stack these together however you want to build the solution you need right now. And also make sure that it's your future-proof, because you can switch things on down the road, but you're only ever paying for the functionality you want right now. Go on to the next slide. And so I'm just going to sort of round all of this up with, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. I'm very proud to say was sort of co-designed with either the NHS or social housing. I've picked out some NHS examples here. So we showed you the BARTS thing. That's something that's a SJ award winner for their BARTS Hearts program. We've built maternity portals with Royal Surrey. That again is a HSJ award winner. But you can see, and the AI sort of powered search assistants, we're working with a lot of co-designing that with NHS trusts and social housing providers like South Essex to really bring that functionality together. So we're very happy to work with our partners in and around these types of things. And then I'm just going to end on a little bit about why we do these educational things. We were a company committed to doing created to do social good. It's something we're still committed to 22 years later. So it's one of the fun parts of my job, and something I'm very proud of is the fact of how many events we do every year. I think we did over 75 events last year, including places at the sort of British Medical Association, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. We had some on HMS Belfast, some at the Shard. They're all free. They are spaces that we create so that people can come together to share best practice, to share case studies, to share their challenges, sometimes just to share their complaints and feel better about them and feel like they're not alone. And we would invite you to attend as many as you want. And please, we really appreciate if you can share this with other people, and they'll find it educationally helpful. This was a more product-led one, but a lot of the ones we do are actually thought leaders and industry leaders or case studies, and they're run by social housing providers or the NHS, and we take a step back. These are the ones that we've got coming up. There's a nice QR code there if you want to scan it. We'll leave this up for a little moment, or just get in touch with us, and you're welcome to enjoy this. So we've got the expanding tenant engagement beyond the user voices, improving material outcomes through better informed parents, and the strategic impact of information architecture, and they're all coming up over the next sort of couple of weeks. If you've liked or you want more information about anything you've heard today, so if you want to have a further conversation around how a mobile app might help you specifically, just reach out to us. I know our team will reach out to all of the people who have attended and sort of check in with you after this. But yeah, just drop us a line, and we're more than happy to set up a one-to-one consultation. So I'm going to stop there. Nice picture of a lion. And and then if we open it back up to the group and see if there are any questions.
I just realised this whole time it looks like I'm coming out of the sun, because the sun is behind me in this window. But yeah, I look like I'm in protection, witness protection or something. Any questions on that content?
Or any questions or thoughts? It's very, very quiet. So either we have given you all the information you require. Okay.
It was very interesting. It looks like it's very desirable, Haytham. I'd love to have it. We just need to save lots of money here in the NHS. So you got any tips on that?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, when we often look at these types of things, so we've done quite a lot of work with people like University Hospital Sussex, Lewisham and Greenwich recently, where we looked at actually what they were spending and how by unifying their platforms, they could actually reduce cost whilst accessing all of this functionality. So, I mean, what I would always say with that is, I know we're all being asked to do more with less. So what drives true economies of scale is actually bringing these front doors together. And when you actually look at the inefficiencies that they're causing, the issues that they cause down the line for not having these access. So a perfect example is, your intranet, your rewards and recognition program. Okay, we often say to NHS trusts, well, what are you doing? They say, oh, we'll have a gala dinner. And that's great. And, they're fantastic. I've been very lucky to be invited to a few. But of your 5,000 employees, how many get to go? Well, only 300. So that's 4,700 people a year that you're not getting involved in that program. Rewards and recognition program is a very cost-effective way of allowing people to be seen every day, feel valued and recognised. And actually, as we saw with those statistics, 55% with BART. Now, if we just take the cost of replacing one nurse, the average price of replacing a nurse, just recruitment fees, not all of the knowledge, all of the experience and all of the sense of community you lose when you lose someone from the sector, is £12,000. So actually combine that with the NHS employers survey, where 1 in 3 members of the NHS are thinking of leaving, not just leaving their trust, but leaving the sector. Actually, if we can make people feel more valued, recognised, and at work, how many people, by the time that you've 2 people decide to stay in place for a year, you've already paid for the rewards and recognition program. So actually, there are real links to real world savings. Let alone, the sort of social good and the staff satisfaction and the morale and all the other elements that it does. But yeah, we can definitely, if you're interested in looking about that and money is a concern, we've sat with quite a few trusts and helped them build out a cost model around this to show them return on investment so that they can take it internally to their board and say, look, we want to do these things. These are all the benefits, but actually here are the real world cost implications of it as well. And this is how it will pay for itself. So more than happy to have that conversation if that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, I shall bear it in mind. If honestly, if I had the spending power, I'd get you guys talking to all the other departments around and identify all these problems. But I haven't got it in my power, unfortunately.
Well, that's fine. I mean, again, well, the good thing about these elements are obviously I've wrapped this into a large package is you can do these, so you can do them in phases, and again, a lot of these are a lot more cost effective than you might think. So, we have worked with quite a few trusts who, so I was using Lewisham and Greenwich because they did a case study for us recently and they came on, 6 months ago, they were probably sort of lagging behind, they hadn't done any technology and they will have sort of by phasing this and taking it to the board in little chunks, they've managed to bring it all together in a very cost effective way and show actual savings, and they will be sort of a digital exemplar when they go live with everything in the next sort of couple of months. So it's a massive turnaround for them, but they sort of looked at it in piecemeal because they started with the exact same conversation. I remember when I went in to see them, before I'd sat down, he said to Julian Beaton, their sort of head of communication, said to me, by the way, before you sit down, we have no money. So that's where our conversation started. But actually, look, it's about discussing what the art of the possible is. Even if we, we're more than happy, as again part of the commitment to doing social good, to sit with you and just highlight sort of areas we think there might be cost effectiveness. And that's as a free service. It's a consultancy service. We're more than happy to do that, regardless of which supplier or whatever you end up doing. And you can take that information internally. So more than happy to set up those meetings separately.
Yeah, I think we've begun that journey with Jamie, having different discussions. Yes. So yes, great. Thank you very much.
Kudos to Jamie. Problem. He's on the call. He's on the call as well. How much did he pay you to say that?
Any other questions from anyone else? I know we're running a little bit up towards time now. Okay, look, if there are any more questions, please feel free to email us or drop us a line. As always, look, I'm really thankful that when you attend, as I said, if you found value in this, please could you help us advertise our other sort of webinars, and when these come around, pass them on to colleagues and sort of pass the story on that these are happening, because it's really helpful to sort of build that educational brand for us. So thank you, everybody. There we go. Have 5 minutes back of your day. So
thanks, everyone.
That's always helpful. Fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Gary.
Cheers all. Take care.
Thank you.